Raj, welcome to Sport Beach. It's amazing to have you here. As you know, Donor and Stellantis have had a 15-year partnership, probably the most rewarding client relationship of my career. You're a little new to the game, but what challenges do you see and changes do you see coming up in 2025 and beyond in the automotive industry and building brands and driving sales and all those things that we need to do every day?
Yeah, absolutely. One thing is interesting is, from my perspective, there's always highs and lows in any industry, but I would say since COVID, there's been a complete whiplash in our industry. And so every year has, become more and more dynamic. So you have COVID, you had semiconductors, you've had natural disasters, now tariffs, and, all of these things that are really impacting our business. And so the thing for me that's important is not only are customers challenging us more about what decision they have to make, not only platforms from BEV to hybrid to ICE, but we need to make them fall back in love with us as a brand. Mm-hmm. So fall in love with Jeep, fall in love with Chrysler, fall in love with Dodge, fall in love with Alfa, fall in love with all of us, so that we're the most natural choice and a choice that remains not only from a legacy standpoint with families, but also something that younger generations really aspire to be a part of.
Yeah, look, I think it's exciting that Stellantis has made a real commitment to reinvest in their brands, particularly in North America, kind of launched with the epic Super Bowl commercials this year. And it's funny, as I've sort of spent my week here, one of the dominant themes that's been talked about is kind of the balance of creativity and performance. And, Stellantis is every agency's dream because you embrace big, creative, transformational ideas. But talk about how in media, in creativity, in digital and other places, you view the balance of those two things.
Yeah, that's a great question. From my perspective, so I see the content and creative as the art, and the media and supporting plan as the gallery. And one cannot happen without the other. And both of them need to be beautifully done as well as woven together. And so when I look at our creative, to me, it really starts with our brand positioning. What message are we trying to get out there? But then also, as we develop a media strategy and a plan that really balances performance and how we're leveraging our content to support our customer journey, what things are needed in what place, what channels are we leveraging, who's our audience, and is it working? And being very honest with ourselves when it's not working. And so how do you have some agility in there to really pressure test and really ensure that what we're doing makes sense, but it's also delivering upon our overall goals. And so it's with a complete balance, but also respecting both sides of the business to make sure that we have the best strategy moving forward.
Yeah, amazing. Thank you for that. We're here at Sport Beach.
Beautiful.
Talking about, the beach is beautiful. Yes. Talking about sports all week, and sports and culture and media and technology and all those things converge. Automotive has been, a big advertiser on sports throughout decades. How do you view that going forward? What does the future hold for automotive brands using athletes, leagues, influencers, et cetera? Do you see more of that into the future or less of that?
I see more, but I also see making bigger bets and going deeper. So main sports, NCAA, NFL, that's not going away. That's mainstream. But when I think of certain audiences, women in sports, certain groups from a culture standpoint, so Hispanic consumers, how do we go deeper in places that we haven't necessarily played in? Ram just did an incredible announcement. We're returning to NASCAR. So being in places that are unexpected, but the expectation is that if we show up there, we do it well.
Yeah.
And I always want to be in places that are not the same and status quo. So how do you find those unique places where it's not oversaturated? We can dig deep, make some really unique partnerships, and continue to expand our brand story.
And what about athletes? Obviously, we used J.J. Watt this past year for Ram. Jeep Wagoneer used Derek Jeter. Jeep has a long history of the X Games. Are there any sort of unique places you're looking to take the brand, either with types of athletes, women's sports, niche sports, things like that, little kind of diamonds in the rough, if you will?
Yeah, for sure. Women's sports is absolutely a priority. So as we think of things like volleyball or even golf for that nature, how do you start to really, again, tap into some of those unique stories? And it's not just plastering our brand, everywhere, but how do you find those partnerships and those influencers that really help tap into our different audiences? Even with Jalen Rose and his Leadership Academy,
amazing.
That's very important, from a community standpoint. So not only with intentionality, but really finding those unique opportunities for us to have long, deeper relationships and partnerships, and not just doing a one and done. So exploring that right now. So more to come.
Okay, great. Thank you for that. Then final question. It's 2025, so I have to ask about AI. How are you guys applying AI? How are you using it? What's your point of view on that in terms of content creation specifically?
Yeah, AI is very interesting because a lot of people have this fear of AI, like, is it going to replace creative, or is it going to replace, people? And I don't believe that that's the case at all. For AI it's only as good as the input, and that's the human being, right? From a creative standpoint, we use it for voiceover. We had one of our,
I remember.
Yes, one of our voiceover talents, had an accident, and we were able to still leverage his voice with his permission as well as compensation and working with SAG. Even as recent, we've used voiceover from a talent that passed away, and we got, permission from his family. So there's human ways of doing it where it really helps us extend, the art of the possible. But then even from a, broad production standpoint, it helps us get to market faster. We can change and edit content very easily. We can use it for translation purposes. And so I see it as an extension, or, almost like a cape. It just helps us go higher, faster, broader. And I think if we have intention with it, as well as governance around how do we want to use it, what do we stand for, then I think that's where, magic happens. So I think it's art plus science and embracing it, but then also making sure that we have the right talent using it and leveraging it for our business in the most accurate ways.
Yeah, I think one of the things we've been talking about together with your team is using AI to enhance and scale creativity.
Absolutely.
And I think that's the potential and sort of one of the, insights that I have coming from you're talking to a lot of people. So that's been amazing. I guess, finally, any other predictions for the year that you want to lay on us, or thoughts on Cannes?
Wow, on Cannes. So, this is the place of creativity. And from my perspective, and I brought this up a little bit earlier, until you understand the story that you're trying to tell, then you shouldn't move forward and do anything.
Yeah.
Right? Have all of the right people in the right room at the right time. So from a content and creative standpoint, media, analytics, websites, CRM, all of the people that are a part of creating the ecosystem, I would say the quilt, having those conversations up front, I think is probably the most wildly important thing that I can emphasize. So not only for 2025, but into the future, not creating things in silos. Because what I've seen here is the brands that are doing it super well and leveraging great media partners are the ones that I see elevating to the top. And so that's where my North Star is, how do I create that balance, but also have some disruption in there as well.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you for that insight, and thank you for your time.
Thank you, David. I appreciate the opportunity.
Okay.